Years ago, I was baptizing a tiny little baby. And through the whole baptism, he was peacefully asleep, cradled in his mama's arms. Except, just as I'm about to pour the water on his head, he suddenly woke up, and his eyes were as big as saucers. After the ceremony was over, I mentioned to his mom that I was surprised that he woke so abruptly just at that moment. "Oh," she replied, "I pinched him. I pinched him to wake him up. I didn't want him sleeping through his own baptism." Her comment was a reminder that we, you and I, should always be awake to the fact that we, you and I, are baptized. This is a sacrament of initiation, baptism is. It's the first step, the very first step of a long journey of the Spirit of our whole spiritual lives. And we have taken, you and I, that very first step. We have been initiated into something so profound that there's a change in our very being. Our parents, if we were baptized as infants, were taken as tiny little kids. And in that moment, we were aligned, you and I. In that moment, even as infants, we were aligned with a story that's 2,000 years old and a story that is so much bigger than we are. An alignment so radical that it has a profound effect on our whole being. In that moment, we were in the story, you and I. Baptism is not a once-upon-a-time event. Rather, it's an all-the-time event. And when Jesus spoke of completing his objectives, his goals, his mission, what was his to do, even the most painful parts of that, he said that now he had fulfilled his baptism. This baptism that hardly any of us ever think about anymore is the very same baptism of which the great Saint Augustine referred to just 300 years after Jesus, when this great and world-changing bishop wrote, "With you I am baptized, for you I'm a priest. The latter is my duty, it's my role with you, and it's my burden. But the former, that with you I am baptized, that is one of the greatest honors of my life." Are you and I missing something here? Something that the great St. Augustine understood, that Jesus himself appreciated and submitted himself to? Maybe it's time we were pinched. If you and I ignore our faith, if we allow evil to take over our hearts, and if we fail to live an other-centered life, then we're sleeping through our baptism. If we forget who we are, I mean who we really are, and let the world tell us what our identity is, instead of finding it right here and right here, And we miss then what beauty is, and what wisdom is, and what success and fulfillment really are, then we're sleeping through our baptism. If when loneliness comes down on us, and we forget that we're never really alone anymore, and that you and I are an intimate part of a community now that stretches for 200 generations and across the whole planet, and even reaches from earth to heaven. If we forget that, then we're going to be very lonely in this world. And if we forget that from that moment on and this very hour and this very breath you're taking, that you and I are irrevocably now connected to God, never not connected to God ever again, then we're sleeping through our baptism. If when we feel small and mundane, and that we don't really matter to anyone, and we forget that we're part of something bigger than ourselves, then we're sleeping through our baptism. If we begin to think that we have to do this all by ourselves, that we have to do this life and the work that's ours to do all by ourselves, and are fraught with anxieties about our lives and our work, and forget that it is God now who is doing the saving here, and trust that love to see me through, then we're sleeping through our baptism. If you and I get too down on ourselves for our own moral failures, or for the moral failures of others, especially people we love, and forget that there's so much more to me than this thing I did wrong, and so much more to you and to anybody I love who's done the wrong thing. There's so much more to them than that. Then we're sleeping through our baptism. If we get angry and so hurt, that we begin to think that we'll never ever be able to forgive ourselves, or that person who hurt me, or that institution that betrayed me, and we forget that we're free to let go of that hurt and get on with our lives and to the next right thing and to do the next loving thing, then we're sleeping through our baptism. And if we feel that our lives are meaningless right now, and we're spinning our wheels and wasting this life, and we forget that we have something to do, that we have a mission that we all share to further the kingdom of God, and that I and you and every single person among us has something we can contribute to that nobody else in the world can, nobody else. And that if we don't contribute it, nobody will. And that we can give our own lives, that we can give matters a lot. Then we're sleeping through our baptism. And finally, if we forget that each of us, all the people around me, and that person in the mirror that I see every morning and every night, is love becoming love. love becoming love, Christ becoming Christ. If we forget that, then we're sleeping through our baptism. It is a powerful thing that we have been baptized, that we've been initiated in something so much bigger than us. Our emancipation has begun. Our emancipation has begun in that moment of the pouring, and will continue until our last breath. As for me, I don't know about you, but I'd rather be pinched any day than miss that. Jesus, next time I doze, pinch me, and wake me up.